Hey folks, Matt from artoftheimage.com. We've got a viewer writing in. He's got a budget of $1,000 and he's a little confused about what to buy. He's looking at some Nikons, some Canons. Let's look at his email he wrote in here. This is, I'm probably going to butcher the name, but it's Canon Saqib. I hope I'm saying that right. Hello, sir. My name is Canon Saqib. I'm watching your videos on YouTube. These are really helpful. My budget is $1,000 and I'm really confused among these. The D7200, the D7100 versus the 70D, 60D, T6s. But I'm also very confused whether to purchase a DSLR or a digital camera because the zooming of the Nikon P900, Canon G3X, and the Canon 60HS. I'm not a professional photographer, but I want to get extraordinary photos using one of these cameras. Do these digital cameras meet picture quality of the mentioned DSLRs? Kindly advise your recommendation. Kindly help me out, Canon Saqib. Well, thank you for your question, Canon. The first thing I'm going to do is answer your last question. And the answer is no. None of those cameras meet the DSLR image quality, the picture quality, as you say. The P900, the G3X, the Canon 60HS, nowhere near the image quality of any of those DSLRs. And the reason for that is very simple. You're talking about a very, very small sensor versus a much larger sensor. The APS-C sensor in those Nikons and those Canons is a much larger sensor than the little tiny sensor that's in most of the digital cameras, especially the ones you're talking about there, which aren't even 1-inch sensors. So you don't even have a 1-inch sensor. You got a very, very small sensor, probably a 1 2/3 inch, versus a full APS-C sensor in those Nikon and Canon DSLRs, which gives us a much bigger sensor, much better light gathering ability, and just more powerful, better performing sensor. So that one's out of the way. So if you're looking for better image quality, which it sounds like, then I would rule out those zooms, unless you really want the long reach that some of them offer. But you do have to understand you're not, I mean, even in the P900, you're not going to get raw processing ability. So I would think that from just the way you're wording things and what you're asking, that you're going to want to stick with one of these DSLRs. Now, the next question becomes, which one do you go with? You're talking about the 7200, the 7100, the 70D, the 60D, and the T6s. So, do you go Nikon or do you go Canon? The Nikon sensor is a little bit better than the Canon sensors. So if you are mostly concerned with photography, then I would choose the 7200 or the 7100. Now between those two, which one do you go with, the 72 or the 71? Well, the 72 is newer, and I would tend to look at it because you can get it at a very good price on a refurb. But depending on what lenses you want to add in with your budget of $1,000, you can get a 71 used or refurbed for significantly less than the 72. And the only thing you're sacrificing is high speed shooting, basically. Some people will say that the high ISO is better on the 72, and I think on the spec sheets it is, but I think in real world shooting it's really not that much difference. So really the only thing that could be of importance to you is if you're shooting a lot of sports or fast things where you're shooting at a high frame rate. You got a better, deeper buffer on the 7200. Short of that, I would buy a 7100 if that's not an issue for you. For me, it's not really an issue, so I probably would save the money and get a 7100. 70D, 60D, T6s. I would buy the 70D over the other two simply because it's a fair bit newer and it has some advancements in it that I prefer to the T6s and the 60D. I also prefer the more professional body with the dual controls. It's also better for video too because it has the dual pixel AF in it. That the others don't have. So only if you really were mostly into, if you're mostly into photography, then I'm recommending the Nikons. So if you're doing a split and you like video, then I would look at the 70D out of those. Actually, if you can stretch your budget a little more or get a really good deal, I would try and find an 80D on sale or refurbed. I know that with a budget of $1,000, that's pushing it because you got to add your lenses in. So out of those three, I will go 70D. Newer, better performing, and it does have better video too. Dual pixel CMOS in it. So very nice that way. It also has a full vari-angle LCD, which I prefer to the Nikons. So there you go. What would you guys do? Would you go with a 7100 if he's predominantly into photography? Would you go with the 70D? Would you go with an older one? Would you go with a 60D or a T6s? Bear in mind, if he's in a video, those are probably not your best options. Let me know in the comments below. Let's help out Conan. Maybe there's something else you would recommend. Feel free to leave that below. Let us know what you would do and why. Thanks for your question, Conan. Stay tuned. We'll be back soon here at artoftheimage.com.